Hey, welcome to another episode of the Delayed Gratification Podcast, where we talk about building wealth over time, where we have some amazing guests that gives us the steps, that give us the inspiration, that tell us their story about building wealth using delayed gratification. And today, it's no other. I'm excited, y'all. Listen, Chantelle Owens, the queen of Tax Lien, the Tax Lien Queen, one of the wealthiest people in the world. She's here to talk to us about tax lien and tax deeds and how you build wealth by buying these properties, pennies on the dollar. So again, welcome, Chantelle.
Thank you, Ramon. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm always excited to be with you.
Well, listen, I'm excited for you being here. I know that this is a topic that a lot of people think they know about, but they really don't know about it the way you teach us, the way you've built wealth with it. So let's start off. Tell us who you are, where you from, a little bit about how we got here, how we got started.
All right. Well, I'm Chantelle Owens. Most people call me Sunshine. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Been in Atlanta for 30 years. I'm a mother, a daughter, a friend. You know, I'm a regular, everyday person. Grew up poor and was really able to use real estate as a vehicle to create financial wealth, independence, and really generational wealth for my daughter.
I love it. So you say you grew up. How did you know you were poor?
Because I went to school with rich people.
Oh.
So that's how I knew. So, you know, when I spent the night over my friend's house, they had cable, you know, they had a full-size bed, you know, their own bedroom, you know, mom at home cooking, you know, those type of things.
You knew it was a difference.
Definitely.
Early on. So what, from then, from a kid to now, what did you do? Like, how did you get to where we are now? Because you are, and I always, like, no joke, I tell people, I say, Chantelle makes $8,342 a month and 18 cents.
Why you be
passively.
telling people my business?
I mean, just because people need to know, you know what I mean? So how did you get from being poor to making that amount of money passively every single month?
Well, I believe I never really was poor in mindset.
Yes.
You know, my family, even though we didn't have the money, we never lived with a poor mentality or, and then being around wealthy people really kind of helped set that mindset, like that it was obtainable, you know. And early on, I had a example of the lifestyle that real estate could bring. My cousin, Stephanie Lee, who was probably about 9 years older than me, invested in Carlton Sheets. And I got to experience that with her, watch her go around, collect rent from other people. So that was kind of implanted in my mind early on.
Is she still in?
She is.
Is she? Okay.
Yes.
In Milwaukee?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And still very profitable as well.
So fast forward, you hung out with cuz, so you got some exposure to real estate, but what's next? Like you've been in Atlanta 30 years, so you came to Atlanta already doing real estate?
No, the seed was planted, but no, I came to Atlanta through the military. Then I went to college here, worked jobs, and really realized like this life is not for me. You know, people telling me what to do, what I could wear, you know, what kind of house I could live in, what kind of car I could drive, when I could take off. So I knew I had to find something that was going to give me freedom, because more than money, freedom was important to me.
Did the military help you at all? Like with where you are now, do you think anything that you learned?
Definitely. When I was younger, I would have said no, but hindsight is everything. Definitely with discipline, being able to stick with something, you know, even when you don't see the returns that you want, even when it's hard work, you know, when you feel like you can't go on, you know, if I could do that for the military, for our country, then I should be able to do that for my family as well.
So you left the military and then came to Atlanta?
No, I got out of the military while I was in Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah. And then you went to college?
Yes.
So how did college?
College further let me know, because while I was in college, I was around people who were making a lot of money. And I knew that once I finished college, what I was going to go into, which was computer science, wasn't going to allow me to make the kind of money that they were making. So I was like, I need to get a business. It still wasn't necessarily real estate, you know, because I was so far from my cousin by that time, you know, when you're younger, you skip from one thing to the next. So I just thought, okay, definitely business. So not necessarily real estate. So it wasn't until I had a coworker of mine who told me that they asked me could they use my credit and that they would pay me $8,000 to use it.
For what?
Just to use my credit to buy a house, and then they were going to turn around and sell that property, and the house would be out of my name.
So you were working a regular job, and somebody approached you and said, "Hey, listen, you got great credit, but they're gonna pay you $8,000 per deal."
Yes.
Or that deal.
Well, it was just that one deal at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that work out?
It worked out very well.
Okay.
And up until that point, I had never had like $8,000 in my hand at one time.
Wow.
So that was like, can I do this again? So I did that over a few times. And like after my 5th time, I was making more doing that than I was on my job in a short period of time.
How long did it take you to do those 8 deals? Like, what do you think?
It had to be within 6 to 8 months.
Wow, y'all were rolling.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, they was using me up. Like I had like almost 800 credit score. So they were like,
did you
deal
know
after deal.
how great your credit was? Did you know the importance of credit at that time?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did. But I wasn't a person. So I had a house, I had a car, a couple credit cards. So I didn't really see myself using credit for anything else. Like I didn't know the things that you could do with credit. I just thought, hey, these are the basic things. I'm good, you know? So I was willing to risk it because I had everything I wanted at the time anyway.
So we just finished deal 8. You made $40,000, $50,000 passively sitting at your desk at work. You're good. You got an extra 40, 50 put up or whatever you're doing with it. Then what happened next?
So now I'm starting to, after I do a couple deals, I'm looking at the paperwork, I'm starting to understand. And now I'm like, hey, y'all made way more than this $8,000. That's all y'all paying me? I need to learn how to do this myself so I could be on the other side of the table, you know, getting them 8 and, you know, the
20,
100.
30, 100, whatever it might be.
Right. So, you know, I just started to delve into real estate and, which was a long battle, you know, a long road to, you know, get to where I finally ended up to be. Because I ended up starting off with subject to.
Okay.
Just because, you know, I didn't really understand the steps that they had taken. You know, I didn't know that I could go to an investment, you know, that there were investment lenders. You know, I'm trying to go to a regular bank and they're like, no, you already got these properties in your name. You know, so I started out with subject to, basically, with Carlton Sheets. So I said, well, let me take the same road that my cousin took. And that's how I ended up getting into real estate, subject to. Then I went to wholesaling. Then I went to fix and flip. And that's where I landed when, you know, the market crashed. And then I got into tax liens, you know.
So you went through this progress of subject to wholesaling, fixing and flipping. Then you had some rentals.
Yes.
How many rentals did you have, and like what made you get into the rental business?
So while I was fixing and flipping, I've always invested in my education. And so during that time I had taken a course and the guy was like, you know, you really need to start looking at rentals, you know, and I was like, oof. And, you know, he was like, no, this is how you're going to retire. And I knew that, again, freedom was what I wanted. And so by the time I got to fix and flip, I understood, like, this is a hard job.
Fixing and flipping?
Yes. So I do want residual income so that I could retire. So I started to, like, every third or fourth deal, make it a rental property.
Okay.
And I accumulated before the market crash, I had accumulated like 17
rental
properties. Yeah.
Wow. So by 2000, when did you start buying for yourself? Like,
I started in about 2004.
And in 3 or 4 years, you had accumulated 17 rental properties?
Yeah.
And then the market crashed?
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah. So when the market crashed, a lot of those properties I ended up being upside down in. The Rents didn't cover the mortgage. So a lot of those properties ended up foreclosing. I had one property in particular, the bank did not foreclose, which ended up being a blessing. And that property went into the tax sale. So a person bought that property for $2,100.
So they bought the property or they bought the taxes for $2,100?
So they bought a tax deed for $2,100,
Okay.
which gave them interest in the property. Not fully, immediately. They end up buying a redeemable tax deed, basically.
Okay.
And so that if I didn't pay, they would end up with the property.
So they bought a tax deed, but who did they buy the tax deed from?
So when I became delinquent on my property taxes, both me and the mortgage company, the county sent us a notice saying, hey, either you or the mortgage company pay these taxes, or we're going to put this property into the tax sale and we're going to get our money, right? And in order to do that, they have to put a tax lien on the property.
Okay.
They then sold that tax lien to an investor, and what the investor received was a redeemable tax deed.
So what's the difference between a tax lien and a tax deed?
Exactly. So the question I think you're asking is, what's the difference between a tax lien certificate and a tax deed?
Okay.
A lot of people mix those two words up, tax lien and tax lien certificate.
So it's a difference between tax lien and tax lien certificate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So a tax lien is what, just like any other lien that you know, just like a mortgage lien, a creditor lien, or any other lien, it's a lien that the county places on the property to solidify, their claim on that property.
Got you.
Now, how they sell it is either a tax deed or a tax lien certificate. Like what the investor actually receives is a tax deed or a tax lien certificate. So the difference between those two is a tax lien certificate is not going to give you any property rights. It's just basically saying, hey, here's a receipt that you paid the delinquent taxes and you're going to receive interest if somebody comes to redeem this property.
So some states, and I know we got to get into this, but I'm thinking about something now. Some states I hear are tax lien, is it tax lien certificate states and then tax deed states? Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So it ain't just tax lien state, because all of them are tax lien. Mm-hmm. It's tax lien certificate state or tax deed state. So again, what's the difference? You say tax lien certificate is you just know I bought the taxes.
Right, and I can get my interest.
Okay.
Right? And then a tax deed is actually where you purchase the property, and when you receive that deed, you own the property right out. Then you have a redeemable tax deed, which is a type of tax deed.
Got you.
But it delays the ownership. So it says, hold up, we're going to give this owner whatever time is specified by that state. So let's say in Georgia it's 365 years. 365 days. Days that the owner can come back, pay that money, plus an interest rate that's prescribed by state law, and then they would get the property back, and then you as the investor would get your money plus interest.
Gotcha.
So those are the three types of instruments.
So because I want to be clear. So there are some states where when I bid at the courthouse steps and I win, I get the deed right then.
Yes.
Like it's mine.
Well, it takes about 30 days. You know how counties work.
Yeah,
but yes,
right.
It's yours.
But
once you get that deed in hand.
But the owner at that point is not able to come back and redeem.
Exactly.
Okay. Then there's some states like Georgia where you get the deed with a stipulation that you give them 365 days to repay you plus interest.
Yes.
What happens during that 365 days in a place like Georgia?
A couple of things can happen. If the person comes back, they pay you that money and interest, then everything just falls back to normal. They get their property, you walk away with your investment and interest. Or if they don't pay, then you can start a legal process that stops their right to come back and get the property. And during that legal process, they can also come during that legal process. So during that time, if they come back then, they have to pay you an even higher interest rate. So in Georgia, it's 20%. But if they come back during that, while you're in that legal process, or even if it's just the next day, if it's day 366, they have to pay you 30%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it continues to go up. So,
but what if I start the legal process and let's say my attorney says it's $5,000? Who pays? Do they have to pay me the interest plus the $5,000 or just the interest?
Just the interest.
But if I started the process, do I have to let them come back and redeem if it's after that 365 days?
Yes.
So I really could lose money.
You could.
Nobody talks about that.
You could. It happens all the time. You can lose it.
So I never knew that. Wow.
So what a lot of people do to avoid losing money is they will bid the property up. Because the more you bid the property up, the more interest is going to be paid.
And the less likely they're going to come back. Because
Exactly.
they didn't have the $3,000, they're not going to have the $50,000.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. I got
So
it.
the closer to minimum bid that you get the property, it is a higher likelihood. And I'm not saying it is likely, but there's a higher likelihood that they could come back and redeem the property.
Let's go back to 2008. Because I got a million questions about the process. So you had let this property go. You wasn't paying the payment. Bank wasn't paying anything. And somebody went and paid $2,100.
Yes.
Okay. Then what happened?
Well, first of all, the property, I originally purchased the property for, it was worth $150. I had a mortgage on it for $139, right? Market started to tank. It flipped upside down and went to $100,000 value. So now I owe $139,000 on a $100,000 house, and the mortgage was an adjustable rate mortgage, so it's steadily climbing. 1% each time they adjust it. So the rent, let's say the rent was $700, but now the mortgage is $1,200. So I don't have the additional $500 with that property or the other 16 properties to pay. So I let it go. Right.
You let it go.
Right. They didn't want to let me go. It was my blessing. So the person went to the tax sale and purchased that property for $2,100. Right. Or the tax deed, the redeemable tax deed for $2,100. So if I would not have redeemed that property, they would have owned that property for $2,100.
So you had to give them $2,100 plus 20%.
Yes.
Basically $2,500.
Yes.
For a property that you originally owed $139,000.
Right.
Now, what happened? You gave them the $2,500. You bought it back, but the mortgage was still there.
Yes. So for me in that situation, because I was the homeowner and I redeemed it, everything got put back into its place.
So you still owed $139,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, what happened was,
there we go,
that mortgage company went out of business. So even though I still had the security deed on the property for the $139,000, there was nobody to pay the mortgage to.
Wow. You teach this though, right?
Yeah.
You're teaching it right now.
Yeah.
Y'all do know you better get your notebook out because this is $1 million worth of information that she's giving out. So mortgage company went out of business. You had redeemed your tax deed. So $2,500 you paid for a property that was at that time worth $100 and $139, but that mortgage is gone, basically. What if that mortgage company was still around, but they decided not to pay the taxes? What happens?
Well, it was either on me or them to continue paying the taxes.
Okay.
So I knew from that point I had to pay the taxes.
Okay.
Which was no problem because I didn't have a mortgage payment.
But that's what I'm saying. So what if, because I've seen situations where if I went and bought it, like I was the person that paid $2,100, you didn't pay me back my $2,500. So I started this legal process.
On the other side.
On the other side, right?
Yes.
I got, because that was your property. So you were able to get it because that mortgage company went out of business. But if I bought it and that mortgage was still there, what do I do next? Am I able to void that mortgage out because I own this year's taxes? What about next year's taxes? What happens kind of in that process?
Okay, so the mortgage company is in the same position as the homeowner. So they have a right to redeem within the 365 days as well, which is a whole nother topic of discussion, because there's a lot of people who invest in tax liens because they want the mortgage company to come back and get the interest.
Correct.
But anyway, so what would happen is if they didn't come back and redeem, that same legal process, the foreclosure, they're included in that process. So you would foreclose on the mortgage. It's the hard concept. And it's really not a hard concept. It's just hard to believe. People don't realize that mortgage companies get foreclosed on as well, because the county's lien is going to supersede their mortgage. It's a first position lien.
So we got two sides of the table. As a homeowner, I can go redeem it, but the mortgage is still there. But if I'm the investor that's buying the tax liens, I can foreclose on the homeowner and the mortgage company.
Yes.
Or I'm almost guaranteed 20%. And this is just Georgia, because other states I know have. So we're talking about Georgia because
Right.
I deal with, different states. And so I know in most parts of Alabama, they have 3 years to come back, but you're getting interest during those 3 years and you can rent the property out. In Georgia, you can't, as a tax deed buyer, I'm not supposed to touch the property, correct?
Correct.
So what happens, and this is where, as we're going, I know we're going back and forth between homeowner and investor. As an investor, what happens if homeowner moves out or the tenant's still in there? Who collects the rent? Who cuts the grass? Who pays this year's taxes as I'm waiting on that year?
So legally speaking, you can't profit from that property in any kind of way. That becomes criminal if you do in Georgia. So you can't collect the rent or anything like that. In terms of, who cuts the grass and all that, it's a really great area. The law says that you can't touch that property. But if you don't cut the grass, then you end up with
code violations.
Exactly,
Correct.
which becomes other liens. And if you go into court with those code violations and you try to explain to the judge, like, hey, judge, I bought a tax lien, they're like, I don't care. I don't know anything about that. I don't care anything about that. All I care is this grass needs to be cut. So you, as a business person, you have to decide, like, how you're going to handle that,
That's scary because those are some of the cons of being the investor, of buying the tax deed. Because I was in court not that long ago, and the situation was they were attempting to tear the property down. And none of the owners or the mortgage company showed up, but the person that bought the tax deed was there. Like, please don't tear it down. I'm starting this process to foreclose on it, but I can't go on the property. But the code enforcement want to give me a ticket because they know I now have an interest in the property. And so the in-ring board gave them some time, which is only fair. This person is saying, please, I want to cut the grass, but I can't cut the grass because it's illegal for me to cut the grass and board it up, but nobody else cares. So they gave them time, but a lot of people don't know that side of it. They think I just pay this money, I get my 20%, but you have some responsibilities. So if I buy the tax deed, can I get insurance on the property?
You can.
There's an insurance company that will insure my interest in that property.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So it's so many questions around this. Let's go back to this though. This $2,500. So you paid the $2,500. And I know y'all, it's a lot going on, but you paid the $2,500. Now mortgage company goes out of business. Now you own that property free and clear for basically $2,500.
Pretty much.
So what did you do with it?
I rented it out.
With the same tenant that was paying $700, you put them out?
No, that tenant had left. They got the same notices that the bank was sending me. They knew the property was going in foreclosure, so they eventually left. The property had sat for a year empty already.
What kind of condition was it in?
It was not in good condition at all. at all. So I did a little, I mean, I didn't have much money, right? You know, I had to borrow the money to do the redemption. That's how a dire situation I was left in after the market crash. So I didn't even have that. As a matter of fact, I started cutting hair. I was a barber. So I was like saving up, you know. But anyway, so I just put a coat of paint on it and I rented out as is condition. And I just lowered the rent because I didn't have a mortgage anyway. Yes. So I think that first time it was like $500 for a 4-bedroom, you know, just to start stacking some money. Now it was in livable condition, but it was, you know, it needed work. Yeah. You know, it needed updating and work.
Have you sold that property yet?
No.
You still got it?
Yes.
That was 2008, 9.
Yes.
That's 14 years ago.
It's in Ellenwood, right off River Road.
I keep telling everybody you got some money.
I got some property anyway.
Some money coming in, y'all. Think about it. Y'all heard what she said, free and clear. Now she getting $1,500 to $1,800 a month. All right, so now.
Oh no, that property get $2,000 a month.
Ooh. So
I said 4-bedroom.
So now you did this first one. What's next?
So now I'm like, how can I repeat this over and over? Because when I was, you know, purchasing the rental properties with the mortgage, the goal was to pay those properties off as fast as I could so that I could live off of that income, right? So I'm like, okay, if I got $500 a month coming in from this one property, you know, how many more of these do I need to, you know, be able to live a lifestyle I want to? So I was like, how can I repeat this? And I started to really study tax liens and, you know, what I needed to do to get into tax liens. And since then, I haven't looked at too much else.
Why would you? Especially because you understand the business, the ins and outs. You have the right legal teams. You have everything that you need to be successful. Mm-hmm. Do you only buy in Georgia?
No, I bought in other places. But me personally, I've done joint ventures in other places. Okay. But me personally, I've only bought in Georgia just because it's convenient. You know, like I don't have to travel. I don't have to go meet contractors or tenants. Mm-hmm. You know, my total portfolio was close to where I lived.
Gotcha. How is the business now as far as the tax lien, tax deed in Georgia?
It's still very, you know, viable. It's a little different from when I first got in because obviously I got in during a market crash. Mm-hmm. So the inventory was just overwhelming. Like when I would go to the tax sale, the big boys would get everything they want and it still would be hundreds of properties left over.
And so you would gobble up those?
Exactly. Just the ones nobody wanted. The ones nobody would touch. It's the ones that I got like a tree and fell through the roof or...
You bought one with a tree in it?
Yes. My very first one that I bought on my own, it had a tree smack down the middle.
Why would you buy that?
It was $2,300.
Was it a nice neighborhood?
Very. Yeah. It was like the ugliest house in a very nice neighborhood.
So $2,300. Mm-hmm. You had to wait a year. Mm-hmm. While you waited that year, that tree was sitting in the middle of the house, rain getting in.
Yes, for a short period of time, because at that time, it took me a while to really understand all the laws, the things I could, should, and should not do. Okay. So I did take that tree. I took the tree off and put a tarp because it had caved in the roof, but it wasn't like, it didn't split the house.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Because my vision just then was like.
Right. So I just, had the tree taken off and, put a tarp over it until I was able to, because I didn't have any money to do much, even if I wanted to. So with that property, I had to go like little by little, even after the foreclosure, it took me a minute to get that property.
So that was property 2. That was the first one you bought officially as a tax deed investor.
Exactly.
So give me that. What happened with that one?
I still have it.
Still got that one?
Yeah. I turned it into a rooming house.
Oh, so
it had a big basement. Well, it's not a rooming house anymore. Actually, I am ashamed to say it's just sitting there. It's been sitting there for a year now.
Well, that's the one you told me you wanted me to renovate a year ago. See, that's when you know you got money. When they just sitting around, I got an extra $2,000-$3,000.
You still want to renovate it?
Yeah, I do. I want to have fun and renovate it. You know what? What we should do is we're going to record us renovating this house.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So it took time. How long did it take you to renovate the house once you got control of the property?
First of all, it took me a couple years to get control because I didn't have the money to do the foreclosure process.
About how much did that cost? About
$4,500
total. Mm-hmm. Now or then?
It's more like now.
Okay.
But I can't tell you what it was then.
Gotcha.
It was definitely cheaper.
But that was, inflation and times have changed a little bit. How long did it take you to find that person that could do that? Because did you do it yourself or did you have an attorney?
I had an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I did was I went back to the attorney that I had found to do my redemption, which I found him on the courthouse steps. So he was actually a tax lien investor, and I saw him doing different stuff on the courthouse steps. So I started asking him questions, and he told me he was an attorney. So I got his information, and then like a year later, I hit him up, and so then he kind of got so busy because he was both an attorney and a investor that he referred me to another person, and then I used that person to do the legal process. So
now I know you retired 2 or 3 times in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm on a semi-retirement now. I'm on a hiatus for sure.
I know. I appreciate you coming in, being on the podcast. So about 7-8 years ago, after you had done quite a few of these, you decided to start teaching other folks.
Yes.
Right? What made you start teaching folks?
I had a lot of people asking me. First I had a close friend, and she had created a CE school. Okay. She was a real estate agent. She was like, I want you to put that course in my school, right? So I started the process then, but never finished it. I had so many things going on. I had just had a baby, all of that. So I never finished the process. And then fast forward, Stacy Rossetti, who started South Atlanta RIA, she was like, I want you to teach this class. And I was like, yeah, just kind of like, yeah. Next thing I know, she had a poster, a flyer. She was promoting it. And I'm like real big on my name integrity. So I was like, okay, I got to do it now. Yeah. So, I took a little time and, created the curriculum for that day. But then when I taught the course for the first time, just seeing the people light up and, the questions they asked and, just the information they felt they received, I was like, this is nice. And then they started contacting me like, we want an advanced course, So I was like, okay, this could be something. So that's kind of how I got started, not knowing all that it was going to entail. Because if I had known that, you wouldn't have done it. I don't think I would have done it.
Yeah, because it was a lot putting together educational courses and continue to do it over and over and over. So it wasn't called what it's called now, right? When did you officially say, I'm going out, we're going to have this course, we're going to do this boot camp? How many years ago was that?
That was in 2017.
So over the past 5.5, 6 years, you've taught thousands and thousands of people virtually and in person.
Yes.
What does that look like now? How often do you have these courses?
So we have a monthly course, which is our free introductory course. That's once a month.
Where do I find out about that?
Well, you can go to our website, taxlienbootcamp.com.
Oh, wow.
We're everywhere on social media. I believe we're still GA Tax Lien Bootcamp. But we went from GA Tax Lien Bootcamp to Tax Lien Bootcamp because we started just teaching in Georgia. Mm-hmm. But then we had other people reaching out to us like, what about Florida? What about Michigan? Yeah. What about Texas? So as I started to either invest in those places or have students in those places, we started to do the research and say, hey, this is how you can because the curriculum itself is the foundation. You can take it anywhere. Like once you know tax lien certificate, tax deed, redeemable deed, you pretty much have the foundation. And then from there, for each state, we show you how to figure out that state. So that's how we switched our name.
So now you have a monthly free course where
yes.
you take us through some of the basics.
Yes.
Then what's after that?
From there, people can decide to take our advanced course. We have a 2-day fast track course.
In person or virtual?
Right now, both.
Okay.
Right now, both. But we're moving everything towards virtual.
Okay.
And then just having a special time to do the in-person stuff. So you can take the 2-day course either in person or virtually. Mm-hmm. Or we have a 4-day course, which is the same curriculum as the 2-day course. But in addition to those 2 days, we also take you on a bus tour to show you how to do the due diligence for tax liens. And then we take you to a tax sale the 4th day. So you can actually buy property.
You can actually buy properties.
Yeah, a lot of our students, while they're still in class, leave with tax lien properties. So,
wow.
Yes.
When is the next one? Or how often do you have the 4-day? Because that's what I want, the 4-day. I want to be able to ride the bus, hang out, go bid on some stuff.
Yeah, that's the best value, you know.
Yes.
But we do have students who do the 2-day and they
still come out on top.
Exactly.
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, even the free course, people come out on top.
Yes.
But the 4-day, you're right there with me while I'm bidding.
Yes.
Wow.
So our next 4-day is actually in 2 weeks. So March 10th, 11th, 12th, and then the following first Tuesday in April.
Wow. And then after that, how often do you have them?
Actually, we don't have any more scheduled because we're trying to move everything virtually and then figure out the dates where we would, take our virtual people on those extra 2 days. But if we do another one, probably be like around October because we're only doing 2 this year.
I got something in my mind, but we're going to talk about it. Because, people will be watching this and it'll be after March.
Okay.
Right? But they understand that every month we do have the free one.
Yes.
And during that free one, you'll be able to get upcoming dates.
Yes.
Which is good.
Definitely.
And they're going to have your contact on here as well. So,
and it's better for them to come there and get that information because I'm not really active in that business. So I may be saying the wrong information.
You talking about the educational dates?
Active, like I have people who run that business.
Correct.
So the dates may not be, they may have planned something, you know what I'm saying? Because I really am on hiatus right now. Like I don't even check in that often with the business. So
here's the beautiful thing. And because I know you have retired from everything because you used the tax lien, tax deed business to build wealth with rental properties, not just your education. Because let me say this, she doesn't just sell the education.
Say that, please.
She really does this. I know that you own quite a few rental properties that are free and clear. Y'all think I'm joking about the $8,333.14 a month, but she owns an amazing portfolio, and that's why I'm blessed to have you on the podcast. And people that are watching this gotta follow you, follow the movement, follow Georgia Tax Lien, because you may not, like you say, you're on hiatus. So I
don't know if I want to come back.
Guess what? You've built an empire and you've built a business, and that's the way it should be. As we're building businesses, we should be able to put the people. You have an amazing team.
Yes.
Like I even had to email somebody else, right? So I felt some kind of way at first, but I was like, you know what? This is the way it's supposed to be.
Stop telling that story, Ramon. You got my phone number. But anyway, most people do have to email operations.
Hey, it works because that's building a business. So let me. Tax lien, tax deed, no matter where I am, your program can help me.
Yes.
What if I don't want to take your program and I got $2 million sitting around or $100,000? It's a group of us and we want the short fast. Would you come to my city?
No.
No? Mm-mm. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
I can't pay you enough to come to the city?
No.
What about operations? Would they come to the city?
You have to check with them. I don't know.
So truly,
we don't have a one-on-one or anything outside of our process set up. I've tried that, but it's not something that I enjoy. I enjoy group teaching.
I got you.
I don't enjoy one-on-one teaching. I just decided not to do it.
I truly understand.
So I find people learn better in groups.
Because you get the energy,
yes.
You get to hear questions, things that I would have on my mind and maybe in a one-on-one I'm afraid to ask, or you bouncing stuff off of each other. So it is
and they make the commitment when they do group learning because it's days. And when they do one-on-one, the commitment to me is just not there. You know, they got other stuff going on, answering their phones.
The whole nine.
Yes. Want to call you at all times.
No, that don't work no more.
I just, I like my life peaceful.
And you should. You work very hard. And so boot camp coming up in a couple of weeks. So if you're watching this now, are we sold out? Can you get 1 or 2 people in? Maybe?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because we have in person and virtual. Okay. So either way,
you get in.
Yeah.
But then when the next live auction is, I can come in. Even if I'm virtual, I can still come to that.
Yes, we have a hybrid too. So you can take the class at home and you can come in person for the other 2 days.
For the bus So let's talk about the bus right quick.
Okay.
Why are you taking us out on the, I love it, right? Why are you taking me out on the bus?
Well, because tax lien first of all, real estate due diligence is tactile. You gotta you in order to learn it, you have to do it.
Yes.
You can read 1,000 books, but till you get out there, you just not gonna fully understand. So, and then when you add tax lien due diligence, it's kind of even more. It's a little bit harder to me because you can't get into the property. So now you got to learn how to, bulk estimate based on the conditions that you see on the outside.
And you teach that during the 1 day, 2 day, or 4 day?
The 4 day.
4 day. So that's when we go out that day that we spend in the field. You're teaching us how to estimate repairs, basically because you can't get in most of the time.
Exactly.
So you're teaching us how to, in our car, drive by, take pictures, and look at things and put those repairs together so we can know what we buy.
Yes.
What else do you teach us on that day in the field?
We, teach you what to look for. We teach you how to bid. Because we found that, even though people have all this information, they get to the courthouse steps and don't bid. And we like, what's wrong?
Don't bid at all?
And it's exactly.
It's a lot going on out there now.
It is. It's very intimidating. And so if you haven't had that practice, if you don't already know what's going on, if you don't feel prepared, then you won't bid. So we teach them how to do all that. We take them to the courthouse and say, hey, this is where you come to bid. This is where you go to pay, so they know all that and they feel more comfortable. This is how you register or don't register, so.
Are we going anybody going this next Tuesday? When's the first?
To the tax sale?
Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody on my team is always going. Me.
You're not even gonna be in this country. So.
I won't even be.
That's a beautiful thing, though, to enjoy your life, because a lot of us work really, really hard and forget to enjoy. And I'm guilty of it.
Yes.
We just talked about it over the past couple of years.
Yes.
I just have worked and just not go see the light blue waters and
you have to,
and the snails that crawl up the tree that jump off with a parachute.
But maybe you don't enjoy that as much as I do. So you love this hustle.
I do, but I do want to see like the little snail that jump off the tree with the parachute. You know what I mean?
Looking at snails.
So let me ask you this. You teach us how to estimate repairs. You encourage us to bid, register bid. Give me a bad story where somebody bid it, they won, they was excited, and maybe they bid it wrong, maybe it was too much, maybe it was like, do people bid on the right properties?
We see that all the time. Like when I prepare my students to go to auction, I'm like, be prepared. Mm-hmm. You're going to see people bidding on properties that you have done the research on and you should not be. It's some lot in the back of somebody's house, or it's a lot that's surrounded by properties on all sides that you're not going to be able to step foot on. You're going to see people bidding on these properties, so don't be alarmed. And every time we go to auction, it never fails. Now, I used to try to be like, don't bid on that. But people, people are a trip. They get upset. Like, I know what I'm doing.
So you've seen people buy landlocked properties, buy properties that they thought it was the one on the left, but it was really the one on the right, overbidding after you taught them. So one, you still got to listen to the basic principles. Mm-hmm. But you see them while you're standing there, or again, while they've been through the class, make mistakes.
Oh, no, we don't see our students do this.
Oh, you just saying other folks?
Yes, because if I see my student do that, I'm snatching them up. Like,
you were saying you should tell other people that's not even in your class, like, hey.
Yes.
Oh, no, they got to take the class.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, this is before I was teaching, or if it was a dire situation, like I might see an old lady, and be like, don't spend all your money that way, like that. But no, none of my students, I'm not going to let my students do that. Okay. We go be out there fighting.
Together.
Yes. Now, I had one student, she was like, hey, I know this property is like a property you would tell me normally not to buy, but these are my reasons for wanting to buy it. So we had an understanding. I'm like, okay, as long as you know, okay, no problem. Something go wrong with this property, don't tell people you learned this at Tax Lien Boot Camp. You know what I'm saying? But I could deal with that. But just people so I've had students who bid and they just didn't listen in class. I had to snatch them up like, stop it. So yeah, I've had that happen.
Yeah, you've put some on my mind again. You always do, but building wealth in this business takes time. You got to be patient. You know what I mean? Like, some people don't want to wait a year and a day. Like, I tell people this project may take you a year. They're like, nah, man, such and such made $600,000 in 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, you go over there. You know what I mean? I hear a lot about tax deeds and tax liens, and I hear both sides of the story. When I first started as a bird dog, I was bird dogging for a dude, and we didn't even understand what he was doing until later. I was 19. He would give us a list of addresses to go knock on the door and basically make sure somebody's in there, and they would quit claiming to him, right? So he didn't have to go through that process. Mm-hmm. I was also in the era where they first started kind of selling the tax deeds. So late 90s, you had like the Lehman Brothers kind of came in with big funds, buying up the Fulton County. So I learned a lot about it, but I never invested in it because I saw both sides, the good and the bad, until your programs, until I started, because I believed in you and I trusted you. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, what do we do next? How can we find you? Where do we find you?
Well, like I said, you can find my company.
You can't find her.
Tax Lien Boot Camp. We're everywhere. GA Tax Lien Boot Camp, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Think we have a TikTok now. So
I can only imagine what the TikTok looks like. Does your operations manager handle the TikTok account?
We have a social media manager.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a social media manager who does all of that. In the early days, I was involved heavily in that, but now I think they just take the video footage and put it out,
Put it out there.
So yeah. So that's how you can get in contact with me.
Chantelle, what does delayed gratification mean to you?
Delayed gratification, I would say it's when you are able to put off receiving results now for greater results later.
Okay.
Like, to me, a perfect example of that would be tax liens. A lot of people say, hey, I don't want to wait a year, but if you wait the year, the return on your investment is greater than if you did something with the property right now. So, and you can apply that to all areas in life. So,
got to be patient.
Yes.
Got to wait.
Yes.
Thank you. Chantelle, thank you for being on Delayed Gratification Podcast. I really enjoyed you being here. Y'all listen, if you're looking to really build wealth with real estate, this is probably, and y'all know I'm a fix and flip, buy and hold guy, and you can get there, but this is probably the number one way to acquire properties when you do it the right way. And the way to learn it the right way, listen, Georgia Tax Lien Boot Camp, Miss Chantelle Owens. Thank y'all for watching another episode of the Delayed Gratification Podcast. I see y'all on the next episode. I love y'all.